So hello from Green-Mopeds in southwest London. So today we're going to carry on with our review of the Silence S01, and to put it in some sort of context in terms of size, we put it next to an NIU MQI Plus Sport, and also next to another bike from the Silence range called an S02 LS. And what we're going to do is, as we normally do, go around the bike, show you some of the features, and hopefully that will help you make an informed decision. So let's get to it. So, as we've said on the ride review, Silence are out of Spain. It isn't the only European brand we do, but it is one of the few. Silence make a claim that all of their components are made by them, which is sort of quite a contrast to what some of the other manufacturers do. But anyway, as we said on the ride review, there is actually one S01 model, and then there's a couple of S02 models, and then a three-wheeler S03, which isn't currently available in the UK. But let's go around the bike anyway. So the first thing to say is that as you can see from, if you compare it to something like an NIU M, I mean, it's not a fair comparison from a technical point of view, but just to give you some sort of idea of the size of it, it's 2 meters long. Okay, so 2 meters is around the size of a Super Socko CPX. So it's on the longer side. I mean, the MGT from NIU is getting on to be that sort of size as well. It's, you know, I'm not saying it's huge or too big or whatever, but as you can hopefully tell from this, you do get quite a lot of bike for your money. So as another example, if you look at the sort of width of the tyres versus something like an NIU M, the only other one that's sort of as wide would probably be the Artisan, but generally they're thinner tyres. I mention tyres in particular because this is the first bike that we do that actually has a brand of tyre that you might actually have heard of, which is Pirelli. Okay, so some people do want to change the tyres on their bikes, whoever they're from, to something that they are more comfortable with, and these are actually from a European brand. While we're on the sort of wheels, interestingly, but again, as we've said before, not uniquely, this has got two different size wheels, so 14-inch at the back and 15-inch at the front. Okay, so I would imagine that that's got some good stopping distance in these tyres. Ventilated discs front and back. What you will also notice is that it's got CBS, so that is where, if you pull the brake lever, some of the energy to stop the bike is going to the back wheel at the same time as the front wheel, so not ABS but CBS. This bike also does have regen. We've mentioned before that the sort of case for regen on bikes with sort of lower rated batteries isn't going to make the greatest amount of difference. You know, if you're saving 5% of a battery that only gives you 30 miles in the first place, you know, you're basically looking at 1 mile, 1.5 miles, something like that. So it's not going to be, you know, the greatest difference. But on this bike, one of the things that people like about this bike is, well, there's two things. One is its actual power in the first place. So this by default is a 7 kilowatt bike. Okay, so as we've said before, there aren't too many other bikes that we do that have got more than 6 kilowatts. In fact, this Coulter here and the Hall-Winnie K3, which is at the back, the black one at the back, they have 6 kilowatts. This one's got 7 by default, and it's actually got 9 max. Okay, so 9 kilowatts maximum power. And you would notice it, and I would say you notice it more than even on the Coulter. And that is probably a function of the combination of the batteries and the actual motor. Okay, so 7 kilowatts base is quite a lot. Okay, so if you think 750 watts is 1 horsepower, this has got over 9 horsepower base, which if you compared it, I know again it's not a fair comparison, if you compared it to this one, this has got 1.2 kilowatts. The super socket at the back there has got 3 or 4 kilowatts. The MGT has got 4 kilowatts. The TC Max has got 3.5 kilowatts. Okay, so you're really talking about quite a substantial increase in power. And of course that drives the demand for a significant battery to power it. And we'll come back to the battery in a little bit, but hopefully you can get a sense of the size of it from these sort of angles. It is substantially bigger than most bikes. I mean, even if you look at it compared to the S02, so that S02, and as I said, we will be comparing that in its own right, that has got a delivery mode option on it where you can see the platform at the back is for you know, a large top box for delivery, but it is more substantial even than its sort of sibling. So let's talk about the battery. So you probably have noticed that this little thing here with its green light is actually the battery out of this S02. It's not as highly rated as the one out of the S01, but it gives you an idea. It is the same dimensions, they are interchangeable, and in fact that's how you get the long range version of the S02, this bike. Okay, you put basically the S01 battery in it and all of a sudden you get long range. So as you can see, interestingly, it's 51 volt, okay, which is the same as the S01. But this one's a 2 kilowatt hour battery, and as you'll see when I show you the other battery, that's got significantly more. So as you can see here, it's charging just from a 13 amp plug. In the back here, you've got the option for connecting it to an inverter. Okay, so this is one of the options that you get with these bikes, and that is that you can actually draw power from the battery for powering other things. So you might have seen some of the pictures on the internet where you see someone sitting in a field with their S01 battery by their side, and they're charging their laptop, or I think even a keyboard or something like that. And that's because, as I said, you can get this inverter option that enables you to do that. Okay, I'll show you how to get the batteries out. I probably won't be able to show you getting it back in again because you do actually need 2 hands, but I'll come to that in a second. So on the dashboard and around the dashboard, so here you can see all the information that you are going to need. Okay, so you've got engine temperature, maybe slightly irrelevant, 85 mile range with 100% battery. Okay, so again, that is in eco mode, but eco mode on this bike gets you over 40 miles an hour already. Okay, so normally eco modes on the other bikes that we do will probably get you to maybe 28 miles an hour, but you can get to 43 miles an hour in mode 1. Okay, so 43 miles an hour would be, you know, a de-restricted TC, for example, flat out as fast as it could go. But on this bike, it is its sort of slowest mode, 43 miles an hour. So this is an L3E bike, so 125cc from a license perspective, so CBT plus L plates or A1 or greater. Okay, so some of the other things you can see as I swap the modes, it goes into city mode and then I'm getting 64 miles, and in sport mode I'm getting 50 miles. Okay, so sport mode will get you over 60 miles an hour, so 62 miles an hour, and if you check out our ride review you will see us doing that, hurtling down the A3. Okay, and then you've got some other stuff, time, outside temperature, what have you. Okay, you can toggle through the trip counters. There's 2 trip counters and an odometer, and that will give you information. Now you can also get to that information from this little info button here, which is really just replicating this info button here, but as you can see the dashboard is fairly clear. So when we go into ready mode, that D, so we're already in ready mode, and as you can see it's showing me 43 miles an hour in eco mode. What is interesting is what happens when you go up and down. So on some of the other bikes, or most of the other bikes in fact, what happens is you go into you can pick any mode at any time, so you can go from 1 to 3, 3 to 1, etc., etc. With this bike it's sequential. Okay, and so it will go up, up, down, down, etc., etc. One of the other things that you notice is, as you can see, it's going down, up, up, down, down, up, up. Okay. One of the other things you notice is it won't let you go into eco mode if you're doing more than 40 miles an hour. Okay. Other bikes do let you do that, and all that happens is, it doesn't matter if you then twist the throttle, the bike will cruise down to whatever speed that mode then supports. But with this bike, you can't actually go into eco mode. So here I'm doing 61 and I'm trying to go into eco mode, and it just goes back up again until it gets down to a slower speed. Okay, see, it won't let me go into that mode until I go slow enough. Okay, it's not a problem, it's just something that you might be interested to know. Okay. One thing that you will notice when you ride it is that there is a slight delay in picking your modes. So when you are spinning, when the bike is going at sort of one mode, when you press the mode button, you see it flashes a few times before engaging. Okay. Again, not a problem, it's just different. With the other bikes, you flick modes as you wish and they engage straight away. So this is just part of the way that this bike works. Okay. If you were doing regen, you would see it come up on the left hand side here. Okay, you see the little black dots now appearing? That is showing you that it's actually putting energy back. Okay, so bearing in mind, this has in kilometers 137, so let's say 80 miles, something like that. Regen on this, if it gets 5% or so back, you're getting 4 miles back, potentially 4 miles back from regen on this bike. So maybe this is something worth having on this bike. Okay, but that's that. So around the dash itself, you have the normal sort of stuff. You have modes, that info button I was telling you about, hazard lights. You'll be pleased to know that they do make noise. Okay, you also have the flashing, so full beam flashing, passing light sort of thing. Okay, and on this side, indicators, and then the horn. Okay, no cruise control, but as we said before, not sure that really makes any difference. The USB port for your phone is hidden a little bit down here. Okay, and you've also got the ability to configure the brakes in terms of how soon they engage, which is a feature that none of the other bikes that we do have, I don't think. Okay, so other parts around the floor area. So here you get your bag hook. I guess, if I'm being critical, one thing to say is that is your floor space. So I'm a size 9 foot or shoe, and as you can see, that is most of that space. So you might want to consider that if you are big-footed. Around the side of the bike here, we've got a side stand, we've got this battery, and then a center stand. You've got the clips for the rear passenger. Okay, under the seat. So because of this clever idea of having the battery drop out the bottom, as you can see here, more than enough space for two. This is open face helmets, but we tried it with a full face and an open face as well. So more than enough space for two helmets, as you can see. And here is how you get into how you get the battery released. Okay, so all you do is you unclip that and then you pull the battery, and as you can see, it doesn't drop to the ground because the wheels drop out at the bottom. Okay, so as I said, this is a 40 kilo battery, so it's not something you particularly want to carry around with you, but as you can see, 51 volts, but this is 5.6 kilowatts, so it's almost 1.5 times again more than the other battery we showed you on the low speed bike. Okay, but 40 kilos. Without the battery, it weighs 111 kilos. And so with that battery, it's 140 kilos. As we said on the ride review, I can't really do it again because I need two hands, but it is remarkably easy to get this bike on its center stand. Okay, I think it's just center of gravity with the battery in the place it is. They have done a good job in making it very easy to get onto the center stand. if you wanted to. So as you can see from the seat, it's pretty large actually, probably one of the largest. Maybe the CPX has got a bit more, but that's got an extra sort of seat pad that you add on. Obviously you can put a top box on this. It can carry up to 175 kilos in weight. Okay, so quite a lot. Here you can see obviously the hub motor filling up all the space that you've got on the rear wheel. And if you look in here, that's the sort of gap that is left by taking out the battery. Okay, so as you can see, it's quite a large part of the bike that is the battery. But despite that, it doesn't appear sluggish at all. It still feels light. For a 2 meter bike, it's about also 71 centimeters wide. So, you know, still pretty narrow as bikes go, normally derived from the width of the handlebars. In terms of options, so you can get a bigger windscreen if you prefer it. Okay, so that's an option. You can get, they also do silence helmets and silence t-shirts and things like that. But in terms of colour, you're looking at black, white, or a sort of green. Okay, in terms of charging, as you can see, you get that sort of effect when you're charging a battery. If you were to charge this from flat, it would still be a fairly long time, but of course that is because it's a fairly big battery, so we're still looking at 7 odd hours from flat. But because this thing can do about 80-mile range, and I'm more likely to believe that 80 miles than on most bikes I've ridden, to be fair, you know, in theory you won't have to do that too often. So it's good for, you know, intercity commuting. This other model here would be good for delivery. There is a L3E equivalent version of the S02, sorry. But all in all, the price is, on the road price, is £5,000. Okay, so that is the price you pay. It is on the government grant, so that is after that government grant has been applied. Okay, so you do get the 3 years on that battery and the 2 years on the bike. It's also including AA breakdown cover as part of that. So a couple of manufacturers are now offering breakdown cover included. So Artisan are doing that on all of their bikes. So that obviously gives you a bit more peace of mind. Okay, so hopefully that will give you a good insight. So far we've had 100% success rate on people trying this bike to buying it. So if you do want to come and have a test ride, then you're more than welcome. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at green-mopeds.com to be updated on more releases as we send them out. And if you want to contact us at hello@green-mopeds.com, we'll be more than happy to help you. So thanks very much.